right, everyone. Good evening. You are here for a Windows to the World event that we've entitled Guatemalan Fibers. You can see behind me the subject, the main subject of what we're going to talk about this evening. We're going to begin with Dr. Dan Singleton. He's going to tell you a bit about his experience in Guatemala, and then a little bit about the role that clothing plays in indigenous culture. And then Erica Lewis is going to come on and give you some more insight into the methods that are used for making those kinds of clothing and cloth. Right? I would also like to remind you all, right, when you leave tonight, you're going to swipe your cards, right, on your way out. Then you're going to look for an email from me with the survey that you need to complete to get credit for this as a Windows to the World seminar. Okay, so remember that. Unusual this evening, right, that in conjunction with this presentation, we've got a show in the gallery in the library. That is a show of different kinds of fibers and clothing made by the process we're going to talk about this evening. And tonight is the opening reception. So immediately following this, if you feel like going over and having some eats and seeing some more examples of Guatemalan fibers, you are welcome to do so. All right. So I'm going to get out of the way now and let Dan take over.
So can everybody hear me okay? If you cannot hear me, raise your hand. We all good? I'm going to try to stay out from behind the microphone and just kind of talk a little bit. I'm not going to really talk a whole lot about anything technical when it comes to weaving or clothes or fabric or anything like that. I want to tell you a little bit about myself so y'all know kind of who I am. I am from Buena Vista, which is just up the road. Is there anybody from Buena Vista here? Nobody? Yeah, we don't have a lot of people, so that's surprising that there's nobody here. But I did my first 2 years of college at York Southwestern. I was here about 20 years ago. I was just talking to Brian about that. After I did 2 years here, I went to UGA. I got a master's degree from UGA. And then I lived in Guatemala for 3 years before I met my wife, who's this lady down here with clothes on. The Guatemalan clothes on. She did not want to talk because I talk a lot, and I probably wouldn't let her say much. And after I lived in Guatemala for 3 years, I came back to the U.S., went to medical school at Mercer, which is in Macon, did residency, and I've been back in Buena Vista in my hometown practicing as a family physician for about 5 years now. So that's kind of where I am. That's why I'm a doctor. I'm not a PhD. I'm an MD. So what I wanted to kind of talk to you guys today about is kind of my perspective as a country boy from South Georgia and what living outside of the United States and working and trying to make things happen in another environment and another culture, how it kind of changed some of my perspectives. And I was asking Brian, like, why are you guys here? Like, what's the point of all this? And from what I understand, you guys are doing this because they felt like it was important for you all to be exposed to at least kind of ask yourself some questions about culture and race and ethnicity and those kinds of things. Also consider, opportunities to think outside the box, look for opportunities in the larger world, and kind of expand your mindset and things like that. So that's kind of what I did. I mean, like I said, I grew up in Buena Vista. I did my first 2 years of college here, and after that, I went to Georgia, and then, lived outside the United States, and married a woman who's from Guatemala. I speak 3 languages now, and all of those things kind of helped open my mind up to possibilities for my own life, and it also makes me much better doctor every day. So there's a lot of practical reasons. I think if you hit that button in the middle, it'll make it, this thing, yeah, I think it'll make it full screen. So to me, it's very important to think about things practically. Like, there is some value to multiculturalism just for the sake of multiculturalism. But like, why is it practical in the world we live in today? practically, I think it's important because we all know that we live in a world full of conflict. Conflict is much more immediate now because of technology. So we live in a world where, if somebody gets shot up at church on Sunday morning, you wake up in the morning and there's like a text message on your cell phone telling you that happened, and details to follow. And so we live in a world where things that would not necessarily touch us at all in the past touch us tremendously now. And we live in a world with a growing population. We live in a world where we're much more connected, not only through technology, but through transportation. And how do we get along with one another? So that's the reason to me that multicultural thinking or being open-minded toward other mindsets is important. Not just because it's some hippy-dippy liberal idea, but because in the reality of the world that we live in, being able to think outside of your own personal context is a very important survival skill. And you guys are all young, most of you are young, you're all in the process of getting an education, hopefully so that you can be gainfully employed and participate in society. And in order to do that, well, you're going to have to learn how to talk to people who are not like you. You're going to have to learn how to compete for jobs against people who are not like you. And so the world that we live in and grew up in here in South Georgia, for those of you from South Georgia, is kind of a small, sheltered bubble. The reality is outside of this small geographic area, the pressures on everyone participating are much larger and much more intense than what we've experienced on a daily basis growing up here. And so knowing how to speak another language is a skill, it's a practical skill. It's something that you might be able to use to get a job. It might be something, in my case, I spoke Spanish, so for me, it was nice to be able to always ask $2 or $3 more an hour than the other guy who had the job because I could speak Spanish. So I added some, value to what it was that I was doing. And so, I got extra money for it. So there are real kind of practical reasons for all these things. Like I said, it's not all about kumbaya, live together kind of thing. There's some real practical reasons to it. So I do think these things are very important. The way this affects my life on a daily basis as a physician is that I deal with people. I've had decades of education and training in order to be able to do what it is that I do every day. But I apply my trade, or I practice on people who may not be able to read, or if they can read, they read at the 3rd grade level. If they're older and black and they live in Buena Vista, they may have never finished school or even had the opportunity to go to school. If they are Hispanic, they may not speak English. They may be very educated in the country that they come from, but not be able to participate fully in the society we live in now. And so if I just kind of treat them like I would a doctor, a colleague, like somebody else who had a couple decades of education and training, there's a huge gap there. And if I do not work to bridge that gap, the outcomes that I'm looking for, which are health and medication compliance, and, don't have a heart attack, quit smoking, go get your chest x-ray done, whatever it is that we're trying to get accomplished, we cannot work together as a team. And if I am not conscientious of the barriers on both sides of the equation, not only me being a tall white guy with a beard and usually bald, although it's kind of growing out a little bit now, what that carries with, that baggage that it carries with it, as well as my perceptions of the patient, if I'm not at least in the mindset that, hey, we're both carrying things that we're not saying here, into the interaction doesn't always work like it's supposed to. And like I said, we are pressured in time, we are pressured in efficiency, we are pressured in every way out of the real working world. And the skills of multiculturalism or being bilingual or being able to change your perspective and put yourself in the mindset of the person across from the table or the exam room or the cashier or whatever it is that you do, that mindset, you can't do that. It's always going to be a handicap for you. You're always going to have a difficult time doing those things. So the practical reason that these things are important is because they will help you in the future as you move forward into other aspects of your life. And unless you're going to sit in a room in front of a computer and never talk to anyone or and you're just going to do project work, where somebody says, here, create this for me, and you just do it and turn it in. If that's the work you're going to have, then maybe you don't have to worry too much about what other people think. But everything else, you're going to have to think about it. And again, like I said at the very beginning of all this, we live in a world that is much more interconnected than I grew up in. 20 years ago, when I started school here, the only place that I had access to internet was in the library here. And it was dial-up. It was like, I don't know, Netscape or something like that. And now, I mean, I can like talk to my phone and tell it to translate something into any one of whatever many languages I want to tell me something. And that's my phone. So the gaps or the distances between people are getting smaller and smaller. We are interacting with people whose perspectives are much more diverse and different than what we had to deal with in the past. So that's why all this is important. So that's the end of my why is this important. The perspective that I wanted to bring you about Guatemala, and particularly when it comes to clothing. So take all of that that we just talked about, and I want to talk about something very specific. The world is full of a tremendous variety of people and mindsets. You know, some of you guys might consider yourself liberal, some of you guys might consider yourself conservative, some of you might be gay, some of you might be straight, some of you are black, some of you are white, some of you might be Hispanic, whatever. We all have labels that we consider ourselves as. And the example that I want to talk to you about in Guatemala is the example of indigenous. In Guatemala, that's Native American. So there are Indians, as we call them, in Guatemala. It's part of the Western world. It's part of the Americas. And there are a lot of Mayans there for a long time, for thousands of years. And there still are Mayans there. The Spanish didn't kill them all off. And there are people that still speak languages that are very similar to the ones that are written down in stone on the pyramids in Guatemala. So there's a continuity of non-Western culture that continues on today. And the women there who choose to wear clothes that are traditional or indigenous or Indian or whatever you want to call it, like what my wife is wearing, they are choosing to go out in public every day and gird themselves with their ethnic identity. Because race in Guatemala is very different than race as we see it, you know, as we kind of categorize ourselves today. You all look at me and you know I'm a white guy. I identify myself as a white guy. But there are places and there have been times in America where Irish people were not considered white. Italians were not considered white. You know, whatever. There's all these kind of mutable changes when it comes to race and identity. And the point that I want to make about Guatemala is that one of the most kind of amazing things about, and I learned this as a Peace Corps volunteer. I didn't have these ideas going into it. These are things that I, saw and envisioned and learned. And it was really kind of weird for me being from South Georgia. It was like you're either black or white. It's like binary. You're one or the other. There is no in between. There's no there is no sometimes you're white, sometimes you're black. You're either one or the other. That was the idea of race and ethnicity that I grew up in. That's what I turned in, or that's what I built up inside myself. Well, in Guatemala, my experience was that, first of all, racially or genetically, or however you want to think about it, first of all, it's a construction. There is no real genetic basis for race. But historically, about 80 to 90% of the people in Guatemala, by blood, heritage, history, whatever, genealogy, are Native American. Like that's their history, that's their ancestry. Their ancestors have lived in the Americas since before the time of conquest. Now there might be some Spaniards in the history, and there might be some black folks in the history, maybe some Chinese people in the history, whatever. But predominantly people all kind of look the same. But what identifies people, and particularly women, is the clothing that they wear. So it always seemed very interesting to me that a woman would make a conscious decision to mark herself as someone who culturally, in the grand scheme of things, was thought of as being culturally inferior. In Guatemala, it doesn't matter what color your skin is. It matters how much money do you have, what languages do you speak, and how do you dress yourself. Your outward presentation of all this other stuff that we put on. It's not about what color your skin is. And so, in Guatemala, one thing that's very interesting about whether or not you consider yourself indigenous or not, and how it can change, is if you speak Spanish, and you speak your other language, like my wife and I, we speak Quechua, which is the Mayan language that she speaks, and we speak Spanish, and we speak English. Well, to get rid of your Indianness, all you have to do is put on the blue jeans and a t-shirt and speak Spanish at the grocery store. Where here in America, you can't stop being black just by putting on a different pair of clothes or a different pair of pants. You can't quit being white just by putting on a hoodie or whatever. And so that was a very interesting, that's a very different concept of what we are kind of simmering here in the United States. And so, to me, that was very interesting. And the point that all of this makes is that you may have always grown up and thought that race was definitive. You're either black or white or Hispanic or Asian or whatever the categories that we have here in America. And one thing that I want all of you to think about, no matter what your gender mark, whatever you categorize yourself as, you need to always remember that in every interaction that you have, who you are carries baggage, just like the other person carries baggage. So your interaction with someone else, if you're a white man, like me, when I have to tell like little old black ladies stuff that's very scary about their health, I have to be very, very careful about that because of the history that is tied into my big, tall whiteness in dealing with elderly, old black ladies. And if you don't even like think about that, if you're not even like putting that in your mind and you're not even considering that, you're already behind the ball in every interaction. And the thing that taught me that, the experience that I had in my life that helped me understand those things, that kind of provided me the foundation, was my time in Guatemala and was my time interacting with indigenous people who were treated terribly, who dealt with racial discrimination on levels that we have not had here in America since before the end of Jim Crow. Despite all that, it isn't like it is here in America where you cannot change the color of your skin. The women still put their clothes on and they walked out the door every day as Indian women, which is very difficult. And they did that because there were, again, my novice opinion. I'm not from Guatemala, and I'm not, an anthropologist, and I'm not a Mayan woman. But like, despite all of that, there was value in their culture that they felt was important to move forward into the next generation. And again, the roles of gender are also different. So you may interact with someone who, we all know kind of like what guys are supposed to act like and girls are supposed to act like. One thing about Guatemalan culture, particularly indigenous and Native American culture in Guatemala, is that men wear Western clothes very often. They wear blue jeans and t-shirts. And they're just as Indian as the woman is. But the woman is the person within the family who carries the culture from generation to generation. And that's why the clothing is so important, because the women make the clothes, the women wear the clothes, and the clothing and the textiles serve as a way to transmit identity from generation to generation. And, here, we're all trying to be American, or we're American nations. And we don't have that transmission of who we are really from one generation to the other, especially in such a physical way. And there is something that you pass on from one generation to the next that identifies you, because all that woman has to do not be Indian anymore is to change her clothes. That's all she's got to do. And so, as you guys, I encourage you, any chance that you have, even if you're not comfortable with it. And one thing about being uncomfortable, that means that you are growing. If you are comfortable where you are, if you are comfortable within any interaction that you have with someone else, if you're comfortable in a class that you're taking, if you're comfortable in the house that you have, if you're comfortable in your family or your relationships, if you are comfortable, that means you're not growing. And if you guys are all young, you're trying to move forward into bigger things, better things for your life, be able to make a living for your family, being able to support, kids and spouses and buy a house and all those kinds of things. If you're comfortable, you're not moving toward that. Because if you're comfortable, it means you are comfortable right exactly where you are. So as you look out and you're offered opportunities by the school to be involved in things where you might have to interact with people that are different than you. Or you might have to interact with somebody that's of a different race than where you normally interact with. Take advantage of those opportunities. The world's not going to end if you're uncomfortable for 15 minutes. But if you do that, you will learn how to interact better. You will learn how to you're going to learn how to assume a different point of view. You're going to learn what does the person across the table from you think. If you can do that, it's going to make you better at doing whatever it is that you're doing. Because truthfully, and I hope you guys are hearing this in your lectures, we are all competing against everyone else in the world for jobs, resources, a future, a living, a house, whatever. You're not just competing against the people in this room. You're competing against the hundreds of thousands and millions of people your age that are going to be entering the job market with skills very similar to you. And if you cannot even imagine what their point of view might be, many of them they'll know what your point of view is, and they will understand the importance of understanding the American, especially if they're international students or international people that you're working against or working with. They're going to understand the importance of trying to adopt that dominant culture because they've been trying to do it their whole lives. Whereas here, we are the dominant culture. So we've been sitting in our comfortable place for all this time, just assuming that we're never going to have to see things from the view. And that's not really true. You're going to have to see things from the view, whether you're a doctor like me, whether you're a nurse, definitely if you're a teacher, if you're an engineer, anything you do, you're going to have to learn how to deal with people who are very different, who carry baggage of their own, and you need to think about the baggage that you carry yourself as you interact with other folks. So I think I had 20 minutes. That's probably more than 20 minutes because that's going to be long-winded. But y'all have any thoughts, questions? Please speak up. I know there's a grade for this, so if you can say anything you want to, I'll get it out. Like this for crap, or sound like a good idea, whatever. I don't really care. You better say something. I'm gonna call them 3 people.
Did you speak Spanish before you went there?
I spoke Spanish a little bit before I went to Guatemala. I spoke probably conversational, so I spoke enough to be able to defend myself. And because I spoke some Spanish, the wisdom of the Peace Corps put me in a community where nobody spoke Spanish, so I had to learn another language on top of that. But that's fine. It was good. The third one was easier than the second one.
So going to this place where you're a guy,
Yeah.
and you said you did speak their indigenous and
Mhm.
language, how do they view you?
Well, so I understood that if I did not learn how to swim in that water, that I wasn't going to get anything done. So for me, it's always been more important to move forward than it was to hold on to something that did not work. So I could stand on top of a mountain and scream in English, but nothing's going to get done. So it's more efficient to take the time to interact with people. It's very neat. If y'all take anything out of this, meet people where they are. So if they're homeless and your job is to work with them, you go to the streets. If they are rich people and your job is to manage their money and make money off of them, you go to where they are. You dress like them, you look like them, you talk like them. If your job is to be a teacher in any of the public school systems around here, work in the community where you are. Meet the people where they are. Because the need is tremendous. All of you that are in here are privileged to even just be sitting in this room. Because all the people that you're going to be serving, they're not here. So you got to meet them where they are. And that requires a certain level of humility. You got to be like, okay, I'm not, as far as, person in the room, I'm not, the tall white guy, so you got to do it my way because I'm the tall white guy. You got to meet people where they are. So that is how I do it. And of course people laugh at you, people make fun of you, people don't listen to anything that you have to say. But why would they? I mean, if somebody came in here and gave you this lecture and kept cheating, y'all be like, what the hell is this? So when you are interacting with somebody else, unless you're meeting them where they're at, they're gonna have the same attitude. Because their point of view is just as valid as yours. There's nothing particularly special about your point of view. And you gotta be able to remind yourself of that. You gotta be able to earn a special point of view. So, one more. I said if I didn't get 3, I was gonna call somebody. Somebody over here. You were listening pretty good. You got a question? Do what? How do me and my wife meet? So, that's a good question. Yeah, I'm gonna give you the short version. I was a peace corps volunteer in the community that she was from. And so I lived there for 3 years, and I worked with her family. And she's the oldest, and she was always, she's over rolling eyes, blushing all that. And so she was always gone. She was always off working and everything. And I was working with her mom and her brothers and sisters and all that. And then she showed up, and this is totally kind of thing you do when you're a guy in your 20s and you're a peace corps volunteer, you're selling your olives, or I was I'm gonna see if I can make this Indian woman fall in love with me. But I ended up falling in love with her, and I stayed in Guatemala a 3rd year because of that. So that 3rd year, I didn't work for the Peace Corps. I actually worked for an NGO, a charity that did cataract surgeries in Guatemala, and that's how I ended up becoming a doctor. Because I was something I wanted to do that when I came back. But yeah, so that's the short version. The long versions are really in depth, but that's the short version. All right, thank you all for being here and listening. And
Hi, my name is Erika Lewis. I'm all the way from Athens, Georgia. Originally, I'm from Germany, where I studied pharmacy. But then coming to this country, eventually I got my degree in art at UJ and my MFA degree specifically in fabric design. So I'm a weaver, and as such, I went to Guatemala in March 2016 with a group of other weavers. We were called loom dancers, I think the group was called. We were about 8 or 10 people taking workshops. I put this, God, I hardly can see it. I put this particular slide on first because just to give you an idea, I mean, I love Guatemala, and it's so vivid, and the colors, and I mean, we didn't exactly travel on a bus like that, but still experienced the life there. And we only really stayed with Mayan people, Mayan artisans, and so, oops, let's see. Here, this lady here, also very colorful. When you go, hopefully you have a chance to go or go to the library at the gallery there. I bought one of those birds from her. The national bird of Guatemala is called quetzal, the quetzal or quetzal bird. And so that's, she just walked around with this and just loved them. Here you have a typical scene of a woman weaving at the backstrap loom at her home. That's how they weave for themselves. The family goes from generation to generation. That's how they either do it in weaving, in basketry making, in all kinds of arts, or rather crafts. It's just handed down from one generation to the next. And so this particular one, she is weaving at the backstrap loom. I don't know what she's actually doing. And I have samples there at the gallery. I don't know why it goes so fast. Let's see. Here's just another one. We call it backstrap loom because there really is a strap in the back that holds the loom. It's also called a body tension loom because when you weave, you have what's called the warp goes onto the loom, and then you cross it with the weft. Sometimes in English it's called woof also, but so usually we call it weft. But in order to get that tension, you have to lean back on the backstrap loom. Later in other looms, you have the 2 bars, and that way you can have the tension. But you need that, and this is just typically see some, when I was there, they were actually sitting on that strap, not having it around the back. And I've seen in Ecuador, they make it from cowhide because it really stresses your back. This particular loom is called the Cinta loom. Cinta, is that correct? It's band. Yeah. So that's and you will also see one sample there at the gallery. It's very intricate, and they weave these very small stuff with beautiful figures in it, either human or flowers or birds or this sort of thing. I've never seen a loom like that before. And also you have it, so women always weave the backstrap loom, but men have the larger loom. The larger looms, floor looms, as we have it in this country, and so usually men weave on that, and as you can see, you can weave much wider cloth that way. So of course, in the beginning, you have to have your yarn that has to be spun, and she is spinning cotton here on the so-called drop spindle. I mean, we have a wheel now, and it goes much faster, but doing it with a drop spindle, it's very portable, just like the backstrap loom. It's a very portable loom. It's in many cultures that you have the backstrap loom, but it's particularly in South America, used throughout, not just Guatemala, Honduras, and Ecuador, and even all the way down to Patagonia. So she's spinning the yarn. This particular woman, she was actually my teacher, workshop teacher. She is dyeing cotton, natural dye. I do not know which particular plant she is using, but that's how you just do it by hand. You after you spin the yarn, make it into skeins usually, and then dip dye it or dye it in that pot. From there, you have to take it, just like we do it in this country, on a warping board to measure. That measures the yarn, to any particular length. This one is from the workshop I took, and the warp is on there, and so that's the way it was measured. Here we do it a little bit different, but basically it's the very same idea that you measure your warp before you put it onto a loom. This is it's called haspa. It's the same as tie-dye. It's the same as ikat in India. And what is involved is that you tie up in particular place, in specific places, the warp, and they have, again, from generation to generation, they know exactly the way to tie it, and then they dye it. They know, or this will be maybe an animal, this will be a flower, and so you tie it very tight and dye it. Most often in indigo, which is the blue, and so where it was tied, just like you have it here, tie-dye, that will stay white, and then the rest will be blue. And you can, it's a wet dye where you put the whole warp in and get it out. It oxidizes, and if you want a deeper blue, you dip it again and take it out. It's a kind of a yucky greenish color when you have the dye bath, but when you take it out, it becomes a beautiful blue. This is a typical dye house, and it's all indigo dyes. This is yours truly with my teacher, where we just measure the warp that has to be put onto the backstrap loom. And here's another example of it, and she also wears a beautiful hooper, And this one, the way her color is treated is very specific, and probably also to her ethnic group. Then from all that color, this is going to Lago or Lake Atitlan. It's very beautiful and very serene, and it's just, in contrast to all that color that you usually see in textiles and in nature. We took a boat ride on the lake and over to another small village to take actually workshop. But then on the way back with the boat, this is what they offer, all the clothing, and God, I was so afraid one of them would fall in, but nobody did, fortunately. So you see the different clothing, ukos, as they call it. Normally, just coming back here, normally we would buy and preferred buying from a group of people like co-ops, because after they formed the first one in 1988 or 89, these weavers, the artisans, the Mayan people, were really being taken advantage of and got paid very little for their craft. Now we have those several different co-ops there where they sell it and we pay much more for it, but we all were very happy to do that. First of all, because they do some beautiful work and then they make money. Up till, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago, they were very poor, didn't get much money. They had very often only a third grade education. Now that they make more money on their own, you see they have their grandkids sometimes working with them, and they go to school and beyond, higher education. So education is always maintained. This is just coming back again to the colorful interior here, where we stayed. Actually a very simple hotel. We only stayed there, but it just had a beautiful, in a court, and the bird, of course, here, just sitting there. It was really neat. Then we went up into the mountain, and they did kind of a really neat welcome dance for us, and then showed us their, weavings. And then you see at the library, I bought a couple of pieces from, I don't know which of the women, 2 or 3 pieces I got in, it's mainly embroidery. You do the weaving, of course, on the backside loom, but then you really enhance it with embroidery. And all this is very portable. So all you need is that backside loom and the tree trunk and your back strap, and you can weave. There they dressed up this little guy here, and that was really neat. This is really interesting. Was not in that village, but I remember coming down the hill, and we went into this woman's shop, and she was tying a so-called, I hope I took that I spelled this correctly, and it's this long red band, and they tie it around and around, and it becomes this big when she is finished. It's just simply a head dress. Here you see it. And then on top you see this colorful band, that's a cinta. And of course you have also this another, as I said, another kind of watchdog. I mean, just all of a sudden I look up, there was a dog way up there, and down there where they sold their goods. Okay, we went up to a restaurant way up on the hill, and then all of a sudden I've never seen a volcano, it's spewing lava and getting dark, and we could see really the lava pouring down. It was really an amazing sight. And this is my last shot, goodbye. This is kind of how I felt I looked like, with all this textiles I bought and then going to the airport. Anyway, that's it. So, do you have any questions? Do you have any questions or anything? Okay, but you have to talk, no, I don't hear well.
The lady, so like in one of those places where you went and they have the thread that bleeds color, it bleeds, it like bleeds into the white. Why do you know why that is, or is there a
Well,
reason for that?
because it's not color pack, and they wash it, and I have one or two down.
Uh-huh.
It's ready to wear because they have the white, and then they put the dark blue, and it bleeds into the white.
Do they tell you why? There's almost always a reason. Okay.
That's all there is to it.
There's usually like a reason, that like a symbolic, like some type of symbol.
I don't think so, I think that's really because,
The thread they use.
unfortunately, the little guy is walking it with the super white. Anything else? Well, I hope you have a chance to go over to and look at all that stuff I brought back and have a Jackson that you help me put it up, or I help turn it up.